She was the quiet orphan girl everyone ignored in university, working 2 jobs just to survive. They mocked her for failing, laughed at her struggle, and called her a waste of space. But 5 years later, at the reunion, what she became left the entire hall in stunned silence. Stay tuned because you are about to watch a beautiful story and find out what happened next. Hello, family. Welcome to Tales Haven. Kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel for more interesting stories. Thank you as you do so. Sit back, relax as we dive into the story. Middleton University was a place of bright buildings, polished halls, loud laughter, and busy young students full of dreams. But for Alyssa Carter, the university was a battlefield. She wasn't like the others. While many students woke up in clean dorm rooms with hot breakfasts and fresh clothes, Alyssa woke up on a thin mattress in a tiny shared room she rented near campus. Her alarm rang at 5 a.m., but often, she had already been awake, too tired to sleep deeply. Her morning routine was simple. Wash up quickly using cold water, wear the same 2 pairs of jeans she rotated every week, and make her way to the school library, where she cleaned floors and dusted shelves before class began. She worked as a janitor to afford school. No one ever noticed her during that time. She was invisible to them. And that was okay, at least for now. By 8 a.m., her lecture started. She sat quietly at the back of the room, taking notes with a half-broken pen and a notebook she had already used for 2 semesters. Her eyes often felt heavy, and sometimes her head nodded during lectures, not because she was lazy, but because she hadn't slept much the night before. She worked night shifts too, cleaning offices or helping at a late-night diner off campus. If she wasn't working, she was studying. If she wasn't studying, she was praying. Still, her grades were poor. She knew the material. She just didn't have enough time to go over it like the others did. She studied during her breaks, while others hung out in the cafeteria. She revised while sweeping lecture halls. She watched online tutorials on a cracked secondhand phone she bought for $25. And yet, her results didn't reflect her effort. One Thursday morning, results were posted outside the main hall. Alyssa stood in line with other students to see how she had done. Her heart beat fast. When she reached the board and saw her grades, her breath caught. She had failed. Again. Behind her, a few students started whispering. Isn't she the girl who cleans the library? She failed last semester too. She should just drop out. This isn't for her. Alyssa's face burned with shame. She didn't cry. She didn't respond. She just quietly walked away with her head down. Later that afternoon, she sat alone on the stone steps behind the cafeteria. Her books rested beside her. Her arms wrapped tightly around her knees. Her eyes stared far into the distance, but her mind was full of pain. She felt useless. All the hard work, all the effort. And still, people only saw her as the poor orphan who failed. They didn't know her story. They didn't know how she lost her parents in a fire when she was 13. They didn't know how she grew up in shelters, moving from one family to the next. They didn't know how she worked 2 jobs to stay in school. They only saw a girl with tired eyes and low grades. That evening, while others went to parties or dorm events, Alyssa returned to the small room she shared with another struggling student. She sat on her bed, opened her worn-out Bible, and whispered, God, I don't know how much longer I can keep going, but please help me. I don't want to quit. I just need a little strength. That prayer became her habit. She didn't know it yet, but in the shadows of her pain, something beautiful was growing. Resilience. And soon, someone would enter her life who would remind her that she was not invisible and that she was not alone. The next morning, Alyssa walked across the campus with her usual quiet steps. Her backpack was old and fading, the straps a little loose. Inside it, her books were stacked neatly, most of them borrowed, all of them secondhand. She didn't walk like the others. She didn't rush. She didn't laugh loudly or stop to greet friends. Because she didn't have any. Most students ignored her. Some pitied her. A few mocked her. But no one truly saw her. Except Noah Daniels. Noah had noticed Alyssa long before she ever knew it. He saw her every morning in the library, sweeping the floors when most students were still in bed. He saw her sitting at the far end of lectures, always alone, always quiet. And he saw her struggling to stay awake during class, not out of boredom, but from exhaustion. That morning, after their economics class ended, Alyssa stayed behind in the lecture hall, slowly packing her bag. Her body felt heavy, her heart heavier. She hadn't eaten breakfast. She couldn't afford it. Noah walked up to her. "Hey," he said gently. She looked up, startled. He smiled. "I'm Noah. I sit 2 rows in front of you." She nodded, unsure why he was talking to her. "I saw you sitting here," he continued. "You okay?" Alyssa hesitated, then quietly said, "I'm fine." Noah could hear the lie in her voice, but he didn't push. Instead, he held out something in his hand. A wrapped sandwich. "Take it. I brought an extra one today." She blinked, surprised. "No, I'm okay." He smiled. "You look like you haven't eaten. Please." Slowly, she reached out and took it. "Thank you," she whispered. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Noah said, "If you ever need help studying, I'm really good at economics. We can meet in the library sometime." Alyssa stared at him. No one had ever offered that to her before. Most people just told her to drop out. "Why?" she asked softly. He shrugged. "Because I know what it feels like to be overlooked." From that day, Noah began tutoring Alyssa 3 times a week. They met in quiet corners of the library, sometimes before her work shift, sometimes after lectures. He explained lessons in a way that made sense to her. He encouraged her when she got things wrong. And he never once made her feel small. For the first time in years, Alyssa began to believe she could do better. But word spread fast. One afternoon, as they sat in the library together, a group of girls nearby started whispering and giggling. Is Noah seriously wasting time with her? She failed half her classes last semester. He could do so much better. Noah heard it. Alyssa did too. Her head dropped. Her hands froze. But Noah turned toward the girls and said clearly, "If you're done being rude, maybe you could try being useful for once." The girls went quiet. After they left, Alyssa looked at him. "You didn't have to do that." He smiled gently. "Yes, I did." Alyssa didn't say anything else. But something deep inside her shifted. For the first time in a long time, she felt seen. From that moment, their friendship began to grow. Noah would bring her snacks during their study time. He'd check on her before her night shifts. He even helped her repair the strap on her bag with an old leather belt he had. They didn't talk about feelings. They didn't talk about love. But their bond was real, quiet, pure, unspoken. And even though the world still looked down on her, Alyssa held onto one truth. Someone finally believed in her. The quiet bond between Alyssa and Noah became her only light during that difficult final year. He didn't treat her like a charity case. He never mentioned her poor grades or her cleaning job. He simply showed up every time. But life didn't slow down for Alyssa. Her schedule got worse. She now worked extra hours at night just to pay for exam retakes. The university had added unexpected fees, and if she couldn't pay them, she'd be blocked from graduating. So she pushed herself harder. Every day looked the same. Wake at 5 a.m. Work before classes. Rush to lectures. Study during short breaks. Then work again at night. Sleep was now a luxury. She tried to keep up with Noah's tutoring, but sometimes she arrived late, eyes swollen from tears or lack of rest. One evening, while they sat in the library, Alyssa leaned her head on her arms and whispered, "I'm tired." Noah looked up from the book. "Let's take a break." But she shook her head. "I don't mean just today. I mean, I'm tired of everything." There was a long pause. "I try so hard," she said softly. "But my grades still don't rise. I still fail classes. And people still see me as nothing." Noah closed the book. "You're not nothing." Alyssa wiped her eyes. "I've been failing since my first semester. I'm on scholarship warning. I can't afford another mistake." Then she looked at him, her voice breaking. "Do you think I'm wasting my time here?" He looked at her with calm, steady eyes. "No." I think this world is lucky to have you in it. That night, Alyssa didn't cry when she left. His words stayed with her like a warm coat in winter. Still, the semester didn't get easier. Final exams came, and despite all her effort, Alyssa failed 2 out of 5 papers. She received an email that shattered her. You are required to retake these courses before graduation. She couldn't afford to retake anything. She didn't even have enough left to pay for one more semester. And then came the final blow. One morning, after working a long shift, Alyssa returned to her small room only to find her things packed outside the door. Her roommate had kicked her out, said she didn't want to live with someone who kept failing and smelled like a cleaning rag. Alyssa sat beside her bag on the floor, holding her shoes in one hand, her books in the other. Everything she had fit into a torn backpack and 2 plastic bags. It was raining. Still, she didn't curse. She didn't scream. She whispered under her breath, God, I still trust you, even now. She found shelter at a small student chapel nearby. The pastor's wife offered her a blanket and a place to sleep for the night. Noah found out the next day. He came rushing in. Why didn't you tell me? She looked up at him, eyes tired but steady. Because I didn't want to be a burden. He knelt beside her. You've never been a burden. You're the strongest person I know. And though she said nothing, a single tear rolled down her cheek. That weekend, Alyssa made a decision. She would not give up. She signed up to retake her 2 failed courses, even though it meant more night shifts and more sacrifice. She moved into the church volunteer room and helped clean the chapel during the day in exchange for shelter. She studied harder than she ever had before, using borrowed notes and free resources online. She prayed every night, and little by little something began to grow inside her, not just knowledge but power. Power that comes from pain. Strength that comes from standing when no one expects you to. Noah never left her side. He kept tutoring her, encouraging her, believing in her even when she couldn't believe in herself. And when exam season came again, Alyssa walked into the lecture hall, not as a victim, but as a fighter. She wasn't trying to be perfect. She was just trying to finish. She sat down at the desk, closed her eyes for a moment, and whispered a prayer. God, please hold my hand. Just help me finish well. That was all she asked for, not to be top of the class, not to be noticed, but to finish. The exam papers were tough. But this time, she didn't panic. She used every second wisely. She wrote carefully. She remembered Noah's voice explaining formulas. She remembered nights in the chapel, studying by candlelight when the power was out. And when she turned in the final paper of her university journey, she took a long breath. She had made it. 2 weeks later, she stood in front of the results board again. Her heart was pounding. She scanned the list. Her hands covered her mouth. She had passed. Both courses.
Clean. Strong.
Enough to graduate. Tears filled her eyes, not because she had made it, but because she had refused to give up when the world expected her to disappear. Graduation day was beautiful, but quiet for Alyssa. No family came to cheer for her. No cameras. No flowers. But Noah was there, dressed neatly, holding a small card and a simple sunflower. I knew you would make it, he whispered as he hugged her. Alyssa smiled through her tears. Thank you for never walking away. Noah had been offered a job in another city right after graduation. Alyssa understood. She didn't try to stop him. You have your own path to follow, she said kindly. He nodded, but his voice cracked a little. You'll do great things, Alyssa. I just know it. And with one last look, he walked away. Life after school didn't get easier for Alyssa, but she had changed. She was stronger, wiser, more focused than ever before. With only a small laptop, free internet at the chapel, and her God-given determination, Alyssa began designing small posters and business cards for local churches and shops. She charged very little, but she did it well. Her work started spreading through word of mouth. People loved her designs. Soon she was designing full logos and online banners. She learned more through free online courses. She saved every cent. Within 2 years, she started her own small brand agency, Carter Creative Studio. At first, it was just her. Then she hired 2 more struggling girls she met at church. Girls like her, who had no one to believe in them. By the 3rd year, she had 5 team members. Then an investor noticed her work online and offered support. She opened her first office, a tiny one-room space, but it was hers. She spoke at youth programs. She mentored students. And each time someone asked her what kept her going, she said, "God did. And the one person who believed in me when no one else did." Still, she never reached out to Noah. Not because she forgot him, but because she hoped one day fate would bring them together again. 5 years later, a message appeared in her inbox. Middleton University class of 20XX, 5-year reunion. We're bringing everyone back together. Alyssa stared at the message for a long time. Her heart felt tight. It had been 5 years since she left those halls. 5 years since the mockery, the failure, the cold stares. But also 5 years since the moment she found her strength. She smiled softly. It was time to return. On the night of the reunion, the university hall buzzed with music and laughter. Former classmates greeted one another with hugs, selfies, and small talk. Then the doors opened, and Alyssa walked in. She wore a long, emerald green dress that flowed like silk. Her hair was natural and full. Her eyes glowed with peace. She looked confident, gentle but untouchable. Conversation stopped. Whispers filled the room. "Is that Alyssa Carter?" "No way. She looks amazing. She was the janitor girl, right? She used to mop this building." A few people who once mocked her tried to act friendly. One girl, Lauren, stepped forward nervously. "Hi, Alyssa. I don't know if you remember me. I just wanted to say I'm really sorry. We were young and mean, and you didn't deserve that." Alyssa looked at her and smiled kindly. "I forgave you a long time ago." Lauren's eyes filled with tears. You really became someone incredible." Alyssa answered softly, "I just became who I was meant to be." And then she looked across the room and froze. Standing by the drink table was Noah. Alyssa's breath caught the moment her eyes met his. There he was, Noah Daniels, standing quietly by the drink table, wearing a simple dark blazer and a white shirt. He hadn't changed much. His smile was still calm, his eyes still kind. But there was something different in him too. A softness, a quietness, like someone who had walked his own hard road. He hadn't noticed her yet. Alyssa took a few careful steps forward. Her heart was racing, but her steps were steady. When Noah finally looked up and saw her, he froze. The plastic cup in his hand nearly slipped. His eyes widened with surprise, and then softened with something deeper. "Alyssa," he said slowly, as if afraid she might disappear. She smiled. "Hi, Noah." He stared at her for a moment, almost in disbelief. You look amazing." She laughed. "So do you." They stepped closer. The room felt quieter, even though music still played in the background. "I read about your company," he said. "Carter Creative, right? You've built something incredible." "I tried," she replied softly. "It took everything I had. But God never let go." Noah nodded. "I knew you would make it." Alyssa looked into his eyes. "You didn't just know. You helped me believe it." There was a pause, long and warm.
"Can we sit?" he asked.
They found a quiet spot near the back of the hall, where the noise of laughter and dancing faded slightly. They talked, really talked, for the first time in years. Noah shared how he had taken a good job after graduation but lost it during company layoffs. He had tried different things, consulting, teaching, but nothing had truly felt right. He had felt stuck for a long time. "I didn't become the success I thought I would," he said quietly. "But I've been learning, growing, just not in ways people see." Alyssa reached into her purse and pulled out a folded paper. It was an old, worn study note. His handwriting covered the page. "I kept this," she said. He blinked. "You did. I used to read your notes when I felt like giving up. You helped shape my path more than you know." Then she looked him in the eyes. "Now it's my turn." She opened her phone and showed him a document. "I've been planning something, a new mentoring program for young students like me." Kids who work and study who are invisible in class. I want someone to help lead it. Someone kind. Someone patient. Someone like you. Noah's mouth opened slightly. You want me? Alyssa smiled. I believe in you. Just like you believed in me. His eyes welled up. For a moment, he couldn't speak. Then, quietly, he said, I would be honored. They sat in silence for a while, the kind that speaks louder than words. Then, slowly, Alyssa reached for his hand. He looked at her with wonder. You never forgot, did you? She shook her head. I couldn't. You were the only one who saw me when I was invisible. That night, they didn't dance at the reunion party. They walked outside instead, under the soft lights of the old campus, where it had all begun. And as they stood near the same library steps where he once gave her a sandwich and a smile, he turned to her. Alyssa, can I take you to dinner sometime? Not as a friend, but as someone who's waited 5 years to say what I never could. Alyssa smiled, tears in her eyes. Yes, Noah. I've been waiting too. 1 year later, the mentorship program launched under the name The Belief Project, a name chosen by both of them. They helped hundreds of struggling students find strength, guidance, and purpose. And a few months after that, in a small chapel filled with flowers and soft music, Alyssa walked down the aisle in a simple white dress, her smile brighter than ever. Noah waited for her at the altar, eyes full of love, pride, and awe. They exchanged vows, surrounded by former classmates, many of whom still couldn't believe how far she had come. But Alyssa didn't need their approval. She had already won. She had survived when the world laughed. She had succeeded when they doubted. She had forgiven when they were cruel. And in the end, she married the one who believed in her when she couldn't even believe in herself. Because the girl they mocked became the woman they could never forget. And her story? It was just beginning. That brings us to the end of this video. If you find this story worth watching, kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel for more stories. Like and share this video to your friends and loved ones. You can also comment what you feel about the story. Your support and engagement encourage me to post more videos. Thanks for watching.